Hi everyone, Marianne Markowitz. Today's video is using the concept of the wheel of life, only we're using it for our job satisfaction wheel. This is very valuable if maybe you're thinking about changing jobs, maybe thinking about, am I unhappy? Where am I unhappy? Or maybe you are thinking you just want to, make a change. Let's look at the 7 areas within this wheel and then see where you are. Are you balanced or out of balance like a car? So this is what it looks like. If you've been around any coaching at all, then there's this very, very commonly used wheel of life. Again, we're using it today for you measuring your job satisfaction. So where we will start first is, what are the tasks that you have within your job? And is there an amount of variety there? And how do you perceive this in your role? And this is where we're using the subjective side. That's our right side of our brain. And so be aware of, am I thinking very container like, which is the objective side, saying, oh, I only have these things that I'm responsible for. If you put those hard rules on yourself, you're going into the left side, constrictive side. So number one, on your little count on your wheel, draw it where you've got your 7 categories and start with your task. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with how you're perceiving those tasks? Number 2, who are your colleagues? Are you happy with the people you're working with on a day-to-day basis? Again, give it a scale of 1 to 10. And what are the working conditions like? Are they neat and tidy and you're happy to show up at the office? Are you doing a hybrid role and the technology is there so that you still feel connected with people? What are those conditions like? And again, how would you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10? Oh, I'm really happy with this. Or, oh man, got a meeting and it's so frustrating because the Teams never works. You know what I'm referring to. And if you're going into the office every day, is it a reasonable commute? Or is it one that's 45 miles one way? Wow, why would you sign up for that? But I do know people who do. So think about your working conditions. And again, give it a scale 1 to 10. Anytime you're evaluating something, make it measurable. And rating it is measurable. What's your workload like? Too much? Too little? Again, in recruiting, I hear so often people are looking because they're bored and maybe their managers fall in 2 categories. They just aren't particularly interested in being that developer and nurturer, or that I have had people say, you know what? They've told me I'm so good at what I do, they're not willing to let me learn or train in another department. Okay, if you're a manager, you know who you are. So, what is that workload? Are you keeping a balance for your employees? Is it too much or too little? And what's the autonomy like? Do you love having structure and working alone, or do you need that interaction with others? Just think about, again, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you require? Is it flexible? Do you feel like you've got a micromanager? Do you work well under those conditions? Again, scale of 1 to 10, measure it, measure it, measure it. And what are the opportunities? Opportunities for personal development and growth? Do they give you opportunities and pay for education for being better at your job? Is that important to you? You may have so much on your plate outside of the office that you want to go in and do a bang up job, but you don't necessarily want to be taking on that. That could be just where you are in your life zone. And then, is it a good fit for you between the company, and your work, so your personal environment. And once you have this, then here's where the fun part goes. Let's say under task, you're really happy with the things that you're doing there, but your colleagues have a lot to be desired, and your work conditions, you're okay with them. And then your work on your own, your workflow, where's that? So let's say you're real happy with that and you're real happy with your autonomy and the education is out of whack. Okay, so here's where we are. We've got all those little lines. So what happens is when we are out of balance physiologically, mentally, you just have more opportunities to have more bad days than good days, because what happens if I draw lines on where we are with this and we things get really busy at the office, look at that wheel. You are so out of balance that it's just, again, it's going to be very tough for you to have that overall job satisfaction. So that's lesson number one. Where am I now? Let me measure it. Let me journal and have some feelings around maybe you need to release something. Then let's reflect and go back to a time in your career where you were happiest, and put the same things down in your wheel and then draw that line and see where the differences are. And that'll give you a great awareness exercise to see again, okay, wow, I was really happy in this place because I had so much autonomy. I could go to the office of my manager. They had an open door policy. All I had to do was give them an update. Versus now, I have somebody who just doesn't have the trust, and it's nothing personal because they're that way with everyone. See, if you can do that, then you're coming from a place of emotional maturity instead of saying, oh my God, he's a jerk and blah, blah. No, look and see if it's not that they treat everybody that way. Maybe they don't. Maybe it is something personal. Then perhaps that's time for you to sit back and reflect and say, am I doing my job well? Yes, I am. I need to dust off my resume and look at the areas that are going to make me really happy so that you can put your effort forward into what you want and not by default. And anytime we have something where we're unhappy with one of these areas, and this is referred to in other shorter videos with our mindset, can you take that step back? Just literally step back and say, what's going on here? And how can I be thankful that this is happening? It I always when let's say we're going to an appointment and I'm maybe running late, and or I'm on time but there's a train, kind of out of my control, and I always come back to, you know what, this is in divine order. It's in divine order. Something is looking out for me and they don't want me on the highway at this particular moment. So, can you step back and say, how can I be grateful for what's going on in this moment? Because when you can cultivate that, you become the one in control. So, again, the lesson here is look at the wheel of life and make that your job satisfaction wheel. And I do have an exercise wheel of life. And if you're interested, you can send me a note. You can sign up for my emails and I'll send you that exercise. It's always good to work with someone, but if you're a good journaler on your own, it'll have some really good prompts in there for you. All right. I hope this has been helpful. And if it is, give it a thumbs up and share with some of your friends.